If you want to join us, come wash the dishes. That's what she said to me. On Thanksgiving morning, those words hit harder than any argument, any slammed door, any silence. They were plain, almost boring on the surface. But underneath, they cut. I was standing in my kitchen, holding the phone in one hand and a jar of marmalade in the other. Orange marmalade, his favorite. With bourbon. I just finished tying a cinnamon ribbon around it when I called to ask, simply, what time should I come? 12 words. A dozen little blades. Brooklyn said it like she was doing me a favor. Like I should be grateful to be allowed to show up as long as I earned it. Not to eat. Not to be part of anything. Just to wash up after. The final straw didn't look like a storm. It looked like a polite sentence. I didn't speak. I didn't argue. I just stood there in that moment that felt both still and shattered. My eyes dropped to the basket I had prepared. Pumpkin bread, homemade jam, a candle she once said she liked. I remembered her scent preference. She didn't remember I existed. This wasn't the first time. Last Thanksgiving, I brought pecan and apple pies. I placed them gently on their kitchen counter. Hours later, I found them in the garage fridge, still untouched, boxed. They had served store-bought desserts instead. 2 Christmases ago, I spent 3 days preparing a dish from her hometown. When I presented it, she smiled and said, "Oh, that looks interesting. We already have plenty." I was invisible at the table that year. She always did it with a smile. A tight-lipped, well-practiced smile that never reached her eyes. She called me Mary. Never Mom. Not even once. When I offered to babysit, she would say, "Thanks, but we're trying to keep them on schedule." When I asked to take the kids to a show, she'd answer, "That's so sweet, but we've already made plans." Every offer I made, she declined. With manners. With precision. It's hard to explain the weight of repeated politeness. But it's heavy. Heavier than cruelty. Because no one sees it. Once, my grandson Tommy tried to run to me at a family barbecue. She stepped between us and said, "Let's give Grandma space." She looks tired. I wasn't tired. I was just waiting. He turned. Walked back to her. And my son, my own son, watched it happen. Didn't say a word. When Emma was born, I showed up with groceries and freezer meals. She opened the door 2 inches, took the bags, and said, "They're both sleeping. We'll call you." She never did. Brooklyn had a way of turning me into a ghost. Her texts were always short. Maybe another time. We're really overwhelmed. Let's touch base next week. I told myself it was stress. That parenting was hard. That she'd soften eventually. That she needed space. But the truth sat in every interaction. She was phasing me out. Brick by brick. Word by word. Smile by smile. I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt. Because I loved my son. Because I wanted to be part of my grandchildren's lives. Because I kept hoping. 1 year, I paid off the rest of their student loans. Brooklyn said, "That will really help." Not, "Thank you." Just, "That will help." And then she went on talking about countertops. I hosted birthday parties, bought gifts, brought decorations. She would say, "Oh, we actually decided to go in a different direction this year." 1 year, I wasn't even told there was a party. Photos went up on social media. I saw Tommy with his cake. I saw Emma in a tutu. My heart dropped. I hadn't even been invited. I asked my son why. He said, "Brooklyn thought it might be too loud for you." She decided that. Without asking me. Each time I thought maybe it was unintentional. Each time I was wrong. She told others I was fragile. That I preferred quiet. That I didn't like traveling or crowds. None of that was true. But it was easier for her to remove me if she made me small. And slowly, they believed it. My son, the kids, even Ruth, my own sister, started checking in less. I became an afterthought. And the thing about being erased quietly is that you start to wonder if you're imagining it. Until Thanksgiving morning. Until 12 words made it so clear I couldn't ignore it anymore. If you want to join us, come wash the dishes. Not, "We'd love to see you." Not dinners at 4. Not even Happy Thanksgiving. Just a task. A chore. That morning, I looked around the kitchen. The table was already set. The food was ready. Pumpkin bread. Cranberry compote. A dish of candied pecans. I had picked up extra cream because Brooklyn once mentioned liking it in her coffee. I remembered everything. She remembered nothing. And I suddenly realized this was not forgetfulness. It was design. She had made a place where I was always just outside the door. My son let it happen. Maybe because it was easier. Maybe because he didn't want conflict. But he let it happen. I was never loud about it. Never caused a scene. But inside, it burned. The kind of burn that builds slowly. That morning, I sat at the table alone. I poured coffee. I cut a slice of pumpkin bread. And I ate it. It was good. I looked at the basket one last time. Then I picked it up, walked to the trash, and placed it gently inside, because I still have grace, but not for people who make me feel like I have to earn a seat at their table. That was the last time I asked to be included. The last time I offered anything to people who treated my love like a convenience. They forgot something about me. I can build my own table, and I will. Next time they wonder where I am, I won't be down the street. I won't be waiting by the phone. I'll be somewhere they never thought I'd go. Somewhere they can't reach. Because they mistook kindness for weakness. And I am not weak. Not anymore. When I woke up the next morning, the house was quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful. It felt like a pause before something important. Not loud, just heavy. The kitchen still smelled faintly of cinnamon and cloves. The trash bag with the basket inside was still tied and sitting by the back door. I didn't move it. I left it there, like a reminder, like proof. It was the first time in years I hadn't spent a holiday with my family. And not because I had somewhere else to be, but because I wasn't wanted. I didn't cry. I wasn't numb either. I just kept going back in my mind to all the little things Brooklyn had said over the years. The things that had built this moment. Like when I showed up early to help with Tommy's 3rd birthday party. She met me at the door with a look of surprise and said, "Oh, I didn't think you'd come so early." I had been invited. I had RSVP'd. She still acted like I was an unexpected guest. Or when I offered to bring dinner over the week Emma got sick. She texted back, "We have it covered." Thanks. No warmth. No appreciation. Just a wall. A polite one. It was always a wall. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. She didn't just want space. She wanted me erased. And for years, I let it happen. Because I thought she'd change. Because I didn't want to upset my son. Because I wanted the kids to know I loved them. But love isn't supposed to feel like begging. Love isn't supposed to be conditional on silence. I started writing things down that day, not because I didn't remember them, but because I wanted to see them lined up, to know I wasn't imagining the pattern. She never thanked me for the down payment on their house. She told me not to post pictures of the kids on my page because it confuses the algorithm. She told my friends once at a dinner that I really value my alone time right after I had asked to visit for the weekend, and she said it wasn't a good time. She gave Emma a bracelet for her birthday and said, right in front of me, "This one is just from me." I wanted her to have something from her real mother. Her real mother. Like I was a placeholder. A temporary presence. A shadow. That one stayed with me longer than most. Even now, I remember how she smiled when she said it. How my son didn't correct her. How the room just kept moving like nothing had been said. That was the beginning of my silence. The day I stopped correcting lies. I stopped showing up to help at school functions. I stopped baking for them. I stopped offering rides. Not out of pettiness. Out of pain. They didn't want a grandmother. They wanted a background character. But Thanksgiving made it clear I wasn't even that anymore. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with a pen in hand and made a list of everything I had given them. Paid off student loans. Down payment on their home. Bought Emma's crib, stroller, and clothes. Paid for 2 family vacations I didn't attend. Hosted 5 birthdays. Covered emergency plumbing when their basement flooded. Sent monthly grocery money for nearly a year. Donated time, love, emotional support. Gave up weekends, trips, friends. Watched the kids so they could travel. I wasn't bitter about the giving. I was bitter about how invisible it had made me. They took my generosity like it was expected, and gave me nothing back. The list kept growing, and with every line, I felt something in my chest tighten. But also, I felt stronger, Because the more I wrote, the more I remembered who I really was. I wasn't weak. I wasn't old. I wasn't confused. I was a woman who had been used. And I was done. I started opening accounts that had my name on them, checking balances, reviewing statements, not because I suspected anything, not yet, but because I suddenly felt this need to know exactly where I stood. I had spent too many years not asking questions. I checked the title of their house, still in my name. I had forgotten that part. I read over the documents from when I helped them refinance their mortgage. My name was still listed on a few things. That surprised me. It also gave me leverage. I wasn't planning anything yet. Not revenge. Not even confrontation. But I wanted my eyes open. And once I started reading, I couldn't stop. I looked through emails. Found one from 2 years ago where Brooklyn had signed me up for paperless billing for convenience. It meant I hadn't seen a printed statement from one of my accounts in over a year. I logged in, looked at the charges. Most of it made sense, but some didn't. Small things. Subscriptions I didn't recognize. Charges from stores I hadn't been to. A clothing site I'd never used. A kids' furniture website. A charge labeled toddler dance gear. It started to add up. Brooklyn had access to my card. I remembered now. When Emma was born, she offered to help with online orders. Said I didn't need to stress about clicking around on all those websites. She said she would handle it. And I let her. That was my mistake. I called the bank. Quietly. Casually. I asked about authorized users. Brooklyn was listed. Not my son. Just her. The woman who didn't want me at the table was spending my money to set her own. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stared at the screen. At the numbers. At the name next to them. I had wanted peace. I had wanted inclusion. What I got was a carefully crafted exclusion, financed with my kindness. I started collecting receipts, taking screenshots, making copies, not to use yet, but to have, because I was done hoping she would change. I started a new notebook. This one wasn't a list of what I gave. It was a list of what she took. Every dollar, every decision, every moment I had to shrink to make room for her. And soon, I would make another list, what I would take back. My dignity, my time, my name, but not out of anger, out of clarity, because silence may have kept the peace, but it also gave her power. And now I was reclaiming it, day by day, word by word, and she wouldn't see it coming. There was a point that week when I realized I hadn't spoken out loud in almost 2 days. Not a single word. Just the hum of my thoughts, the creak of the floorboards, and the low buzz of the refrigerator at night. But it wasn't sadness. Not anymore. It was focus. I was watching the pieces fall into place. After the bank call, I changed my passwords. I ordered printed statements. I made notes of every unfamiliar charge. Not big amounts. That would have been too obvious. Brooklyn was smart. She knew how to stay just under the radar. $50 here. $100 there. All for things labeled as home maintenance, baby supplies, and meal kits I'd never eaten. I started a folder. Not digital. Real. Tabs, labels, sticky notes. The way I used to organize my lesson plans before I retired. I had let her speak for me too long. Let her manage things for me. Let her rebrand control as convenience. But I was watching now. And what I saw made me cold. Brooklyn had built a system where I was the silent source. The background fund. The invisible hand keeping everything afloat. And yet I had been reduced to the woman who shouldn't bother coming unless she brought gloves and dish soap. I kept thinking about the day she had me sign that power of attorney update. It was spring. Warm. Sunny. She brought the forms herself. Said it was easier if she could manage things while I was focused on enjoying retirement. I had been tired that day. Distracted. She smiled. She even brought cookies. She sat across from me and explained how it was just paperwork. Legal cleanup. Everyone does this. I signed. I didn't read every word. That was my fault. But the way she had slipped it in. Like it was routine. Like she was doing me a favor. She knew exactly what she was doing. That night, I pulled out the old file cabinet in the hallway closet and found the copies. Highlighted what I missed the first time. Full access. Unconditional authority. Permanent unless revoked in writing. And I had done nothing to revoke it. Until now. The next morning, I scheduled a meeting with my attorney. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't ask for advice. When I arrived, he looked surprised to see me. I had called him only twice in the last 10 years. I told him everything. Showed him the folder, the documents, the charges. His face changed as he flipped through the papers. "Olivia," he said, "you need to act fast. This isn't just suspicious. This could be considered financial misconduct." I nodded. He started drafting the revocation paperwork immediately. I signed it. Right there. It felt like reclaiming my name. We filed the notice, froze the joint access, removed her from the accounts, and scheduled a title review on the house. It wasn't revenge. It was self-respect. By the end of the day, she had no access to my money. No way to shift things back. She wouldn't even know it yet. I smiled just a little at that thought. I didn't owe her a warning. She never warned me. She just took every polite insult, every edited invitation, every carefully worded message that implied I was inconvenient, outdated, fragile. She made me into someone I didn't recognize. But I was back, and I wasn't finished. My attorney looked up from the final page and asked, "What do you want to do about the house?" I paused. That house. The one I bought. The one I decorated with them. The one she said would always have a room for me. The room I was never invited to stay in. I looked him straight in the eyes. I wanted back. He nodded. We started the process that day. It wouldn't be easy, but it was possible. Especially with my name still tied to the title and the financial contributions fully documented. We had paper trails, records, receipts. I had thought giving them a house would make me part of something. It didn't. It just gave them a stronger foundation to build walls. The following week, I kept to myself. Didn't answer texts. Didn't call. There weren't many texts to begin with. Just the usual obligatory ones. "Hope you're doing okay. Kids are busy this week. Sorry we haven't been by." Brooklyn always signed them as if she were speaking for both of them. "We hope you're well. We'll catch up soon." Always we. As if she and my son were one single person. One voice. And that voice belonged to her. I saved each message. Not because they mattered, but because they were proof of how little I did. One night, I logged into an old social media account I hadn't used in a year. I typed their names. Looked at their posts. Photos of the kids. Brooklyn smiling. My son standing behind her, hand on her shoulder. Captions like, "Grateful for this beautiful life. Family is everything. Making memories with the people who matter most." I wasn't in any of them. Not even a mention. I scrolled through a year's worth of holidays. Not a single photo of me. It wasn't just absence. It was erasure. That moment reminded me of something I hadn't thought about in years. I was 19, standing on the porch of my childhood home with a single suitcase. My father had closed the door behind me after saying, "You've made your choice. You can't live here anymore." All I had done was choose to marry young. He never forgave me. Never saw me the same again. The rejection felt eerily familiar. Then it was a door. Now it was silence. Back then, I walked away with trembling hands. Now I was steadier. But the pain, that feeling of being erased from your own life, was exactly the same. That night, I made tea and stared out the window. The moon was high and bright. I thought about calling my sister. I didn't. I didn't want to explain. Not yet. I could have yelled. I could have demanded answers, shown up on their porch and forced a conversation. But I didn't. I chose silence. For now. Because even in silence, I was stronger than they knew. And that's when the resentment hardened into something else. Not rage. Not spite. Resolve. They had taken enough. I wasn't going to let them write me out. I didn't want to punish them. I wanted to reclaim myself. And the first step was drawing the line. A line they couldn't cross, even if they didn't know it was there yet. Because for the first time in years, I was writing the next chapter. And this time, I wouldn't be edited out. It didn't happen with a bang. It didn't even happen with a raised voice. Just a quiet click of a pen. A new document signed. A final envelope sealed. That's how power shifts. Not always with thunder. Sometimes it's just silence. I woke early that morning, not out of anxiety, but purpose. The air was colder, the kind of cold that wraps around your wrists and whispers, "This is the start of something." I made my coffee, sat at the dining room table where, years ago, I had once sewn curtains for my son's nursery. My hands used to be softer back then, less steady, less sure. Today, they didn't shake. I had an appointment, one Brooklyn didn't know about. It was with a real estate attorney, a specialist, a woman named Helena, mid-40s, sharp, direct, no time for fluff. The kind of woman I imagined Brooklyn feared becoming. Helena didn't ask why I wanted to reclaim the house title. She just asked for documents. I handed her a folder so thick it needed a rubber band. She scanned the first few pages, nodded. "You did your homework." I smiled. I was a teacher. I know how to cite sources. We filed the initial petition that day. And with that, I pulled the first thread. Brooklyn didn't notice it right away. That's the beauty of legal timelines. They're not loud. They're not obvious. But they're final. Then came the storm. Phone calls from my son. Texts that grew sharper by the hour. "Why are you doing this, Mom? This isn't like you." Brooklyn is crying. She says you're trying to kick us out. What about the kids? They don't understand. And then, finally, we've always supported you. This is a betrayal. Betrayal. The word hit like ice water. I had paid for their down payment, furnished the nursery, covered medical bills when insurance fell short. And I was the one betraying them? Brooklyn showed up at my door with her sister. Not alone this time. "We just want to clear things up," her sister said with forced cheer, as if we were at a brunch and not standing at the front lines of a war they didn't know they'd already lost. Brooklyn's face was flushed. Her voice trembled under the weight of indignation. "You've made this very uncomfortable, Olivia. My children don't feel safe." Safe. That was their weapon now, painting me as the threat. "You removed your financial obligations without notice," she continued. "They were never obligations," I said. "They were gifts. And gifts can stop. You're destroying this family," her sister chimed in. "No," I replied. "I'm stepping out of the role you assigned me." Brooklyn's hands shook as she spoke. "We'll have to talk to a lawyer." "You should." And then her voice cracked. "We needed that support. We counted on you." I didn't respond. I didn't apologize. They left without tea, without their pride. Brooklyn's posts turned darker. Vague captions under sunny pictures. "Not everyone who claims to love you wants what's best for you. Sometimes the ones who raised you forget how to care for you." Her friends commented support. "Stay strong. You're doing great." Family can be so toxic. I screenshot each one, not out of spite, for clarity, so I could look back and remind myself this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a rewriting of the truth. Then I did something I didn't expect from myself. I posted too. A simple photo. Me in my garden, watering roses. Caption: "Boundaries are a form of love." No hashtags. No tagging. Just peace. But it sent a message. And suddenly, silence from their end. Brooklyn's mother emailed me next. A long message about family unity, how I was confusing the children, and how everything was fine until I started making things difficult. I forwarded it to my attorney. Then I RSVP'd to my grandson's grandparents' day. I hadn't been told. I wore a navy dress. Brought cookies. Emma ran to me arms wide. "Grandma, you came." Brooklyn was across the room. Her eyes narrowed. Her smile was tight, like porcelain cracking under pressure. Afterward, she cornered me near the exit. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "No," I said. "I'm making it honest." Her voice rose. "You think this makes you powerful? It makes you cruel." I leaned closer. "No, it makes me visible." That night, she posted another photo of the kids. Caption: "Surrounded by love." That's all they made. But in Emma's drawing, taped to the classroom wall behind her in the photo, there was a woman with gray hair standing in a garden. Her teacher had written beneath it, "Emma says her grandma has the prettiest roses." It wasn't just a child's drawing. It was a crack in Brooklyn's version of the truth. Then my son called again. He didn't leave a message. But an hour later, I got a new voicemail. His voice was sharper now, edges where softness used to be. You know what you're doing, don't you? You're embarrassing all of us. Brooklyn's parents are furious. They're saying they should have stepped in a long time ago. Then his voice dropped low. I didn't think you had it in you to be this cold. I sat with that one. Not because it hurt, because it confirmed everything. Every unspoken expectation. Every assumed silence. Every time I'd been the one to give in so peace could win. That peace had been one-sided. And I was done keeping it. The following day, I received a formal letter from their attorney. A bluff, challenging the title review, claiming emotional distress on behalf of the children. I forwarded it to Helena. She responded with one line, let them bluff. You have everything you need. And then I smiled. But the most unexpected thing happened a week later. Emma sent me a letter. It was in crayon, folded in 4. Dear Grandma, I miss you. Can you come plant flowers with me? Love, Emma. No one told her to send it. She did it on her own. It reminded me why I started all this. Not for revenge, for remembrance. To make sure that someday, when she grows up, she knows her grandmother didn't disappear. She stood up, and that was the most powerful thing I could ever do. Because if even one person, just one, could see me clearly again, then I knew I had already won. The quiet after the storm was louder than any shouting match. I thought they'd finally give up, but they didn't. Instead, they changed their tactics. No more fake kindness or guilt trips. Now came the Cold War. Brooklyn started blocking mutual contacts. Family friends stopped calling. The silence spread like ink in water, slow, but impossible to contain. I wasn't invited to Emma's birthday. Again, no explanation. Just a flurry of online photos I wasn't tagged in. There was a cake, pink balloons, laughter. My grandson wore the sweater I had knitted him last winter. No one said thank you. And even though I knew better, I looked through every photo, every caption. Nothing, not even a mention. That was the part that stung, not the party, not the exclusion, but the ease with which I'd been erased. As if I was never there at all. Brooklyn posted a quote a few days later. Sometimes you have to cut out negativity to protect your peace. Her friends commented again. So brave. You're doing what's right. I had to do the same thing with my own mother-in-law. My name wasn't mentioned. It didn't have to be. But I still read every word. Not because I cared about their opinion. Because I wanted to remember exactly who I was dealing with. One of Brooklyn's friends sent me a message privately. Just so you know, they're saying you tried to sue them for custody. People are talking. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to my attorney. Again, there's a strange kind of sadness that comes from watching people dismantle the memory of you while you're still alive. They didn't just want me out. They wanted to repaint the story. Brooklyn was the hero now. I was just the bitter woman in the background. So I gave them something to really talk about. I donated the remainder of the fund I'd set up for the grandkids' college accounts. Not to them. To a scholarship fund for young women aging out of foster care. Girls who, like me, knew what it meant to be discarded. Then I updated my will. Everything, house, savings, jewelry, the land in Vermont, went to a trust. Set to activate only for Emma and Tommy when they turned 25. Directly. No parents involved. My lawyer smiled when I handed over the papers. You're very calm about all this, she said. I've been preparing for it my whole life, I answered. Because somewhere deep down, I had always known this moment would come. It's just that now I wasn't afraid of it. A week later, my doorbell rang. It was my son. Alone. He looked older than I remembered. Eyes tired, clothes slightly wrinkled, like he hadn't slept. Hi, Mom, he said. I didn't say anything. He looked around, cleared his throat. I wanted to talk, just us. I stepped aside. We sat in the living room. The same room where he took his first steps. The same one where Brooklyn once told me my curtains were too heavy for their aesthetic. He looked at the floor. I don't know what happened. I don't know how we got here. I waited. He kept going. Brooklyn's upset. The kids are confused. I'm trying to keep things together. Still, I waited. Then he said the thing I had been waiting to hear for over a year. I think we messed up. That was the first time he didn't say you. He said we, but then came the rest. I just wish you'd handled it differently. And there it was. Still, the responsibility circled back to me. Even now, even after everything. I did what I had to do, I said. He nodded, slow. I know. I just wish it hadn't come to this. And I almost felt guilty. But then I remembered every quiet insult, every dinner where I was placed at the far end, every photo I wasn't in, every decision they made without me. And I remembered the voice in the back of my mind, the one that said, "Don't stir the pot. Keep the peace. Be the bigger person." That voice had never protected me. So I looked at him and said, "I'm not angry anymore, but I'm not going back." He blinked, like that idea had never even occurred to him. "You mean?" "I mean, I'll see the children. I'll talk with you. But I'm not stepping into that house. Not again." He nodded. A minute passed. 2. Then he stood up. "Thanks for talking," he said. And just like that, he left. No hug. No apology. Just quiet steps down the walkway. But for the first time, I didn't chase after him. I didn't reach out. I didn't hope. I just let him go. The next morning, I went to the garden. The roses were blooming. Emma's letter was still in my drawer. Later that day, I got a message from the Scholarship Foundation. A girl named Raina had received her first grant. She wrote a thank you note. Said she'd never had anyone believe in her before. Said the world felt less heavy knowing someone out there saw her. I held that letter to my chest. Brooklyn still posts. My son still doesn't call much. But I sleep well. And when I wake up, I see sunlight hitting the kitchen floor just right. I water my plants. I write in my journal. I play old music while making tea. I am no longer background. I am no longer edited out. I am no longer afraid. I don't need to win them back. I already found myself. And if you've ever felt like you don't belong, you're not alone. Because sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is choose yourself. Quietly, unapologetically, and for good.